The Peace-Finding Process, a complete guide to inner calm. Your mind is screaming right now. Even if it's quiet on the outside, inside it's deafening. A constant torrent of worries, regrets, what-ifs, and fears colliding in the darkness. You wake exhausted. Your heart races before your feet hit the ground. There's this heaviness, this weight pressing down that no amount of coffee or motivation can lift. You've tried everything. Books, videos, inspirational quotes plastered across your phone. You've gritted your teeth and told yourself to stay positive, to push harder, to just get through it. But deep down, that invisible burden never budges. This isn't another lecture about hustling harder or grinding your way to happiness. This is something radically different. This is about finding the source, the actual root where all your suffering originates. Not in your circumstances, not in your bank account or your job or your relationships, but here, in the architecture of your mind itself. Here's what almost nobody tells you. A mind at peace can move mountains. A mind at war with itself can't move an inch. And the transformation you're about to discover isn't complicated, it's profound. It works in real life with real problems through a formula that actually sticks. This might change everything, so stay with me. Chapter 1. Understand your mind before you redesign your life. Most people spend their entire existence chasing external change. They hunt for the perfect job. They search for the ideal partner. They redesign their routines obsessively. They rewrite their lives again and again, yet they never, not once, pause to investigate the one machine controlling every single outcome, their own mind. This is the fundamental mistake. You cannot alter your external world until you comprehend the operating system generating it. Your mind is the command center. It determines what you perceive, how you feel about what you perceive, and what actions you take in response. Stress doesn't originate from life itself. Stress is born from how your mind interprets life. The catastrophe isn't the event. The catastrophe is the narrative your mind constructs about the event. To solve anything real, you must begin where all things originate, in thought. Specifically in the stories you tell yourself when nobody's listening, the inner monologue, the beliefs you repeat so often they've calcified into seeming truth, the secret scripts running in the background of your consciousness. That's where the actual battle lives. Before attempting to reconstruct your existence, pause. Develop an intimate relationship with that voice inside your head. What does it whisper when obstacles appear? What does it hiss when you fall short? What does it scream when you feel lost in the darkness? Understanding your mind is like flipping on a light switch in a pitch-black room. Suddenly, you see the obstacles that have been tripping you up all along. Every feeling you experience, every automatic reaction, every pattern you've unconsciously developed, they're all signals, messages from a mind that's been trained, shaped, conditioned by years of repetition, trauma, and fear. If anger erupts too easily, you've been trained toward rage. If you obsess over others' opinions, your mind learned that survival depends on external approval. If you abandon things halfway, your mind was taught that incompleteness is safer than failure. These aren't character flaws, they're evidence. They're breadcrumbs leading back to how your mind was constructed. Here's the liberating truth. Most people don't recognize that they react. Something happens, just stimulus, and before consciousness even arrives, emotions burst forth. The mind has been architected to defend, to protect, to attack. But defense against what? Mostly phantom threats. This is the tragedy. When the mind doesn't understand itself, it becomes its own executioner. You wage wars against imaginary enemies. You rehearse disasters that never materialize. You suffer through scenarios that exist only in the theater of your thoughts. This is how we transform minor challenges into crushing burdens, through pure misunderstanding of our own mental machinery. Your mind isn't your antagonist, it's simply untrained. It's been sculpted by decades of repetition, anxiety, and automatic patterns.
Spend 10 years worrying obsessively, and your mind becomes a virtuoso of worry. Spend 5 years drowning in self-doubt, and your mind perfects that particular art form. But here's what redeems everything. Anything that was learned can be unlearned. Anything practiced can be replaced. You possess the power to recondition your mind toward thoughts that strengthen your peace instead of sabotaging it. Understanding your mind begins with ruthless observation. Watch your thoughts emerge without fighting them. Don't resist them, don't judge them, just witness. When anxiety rises, don't scramble to escape it. Notice what your mind is broadcasting. When anger ignites, locate the thought that preceded it. You'll start recognizing the script, the same fears looping relentlessly in slightly different disguises. What if I'm not good enough? What will people think of me? I don't deserve success. These are ancient stories. They originated years ago, planted by experiences you didn't choose. They've been running silently, unconsciously for so long that they feel like absolute truth. But awareness is where freedom lives. Awareness is the first step to liberation. Something extraordinary happens when you realize this crucial distinction. You are not your thoughts. You are the witness of them. The moment that lands, truly lands, everything shifts. You can stop merging your identity with every passing mental event. You can question them. You can challenge their validity. You can ask the liberating question, is this thought serving me or sabotaging me? That single question is revolutionary because every decision originates in thought and every emotion is fueled by thought. When people ask me how to transform their lives, I never tell them to change careers or end relationships or overhaul routines. I tell them, reconstruct your thinking. Your thoughts built everything you see. Think you're incapable, and your actions will prove you right, reinforcing your belief. Think the universe is hostile, and you'll find evidence everywhere validating your fear. Think people are inherently untrustworthy, and you'll interpret every gesture through that distorting lens. Your mind doesn't show you reality. It shows you your beliefs about reality. Those beliefs become your world.
So before attempting to fix what's outside, rehabilitate the lens through which you view everything. A peaceful mind doesn't emerge from a flawless life. It emerges from a mind that genuinely understands itself. You can't eliminate problems from appearing, but you can interrupt your mind before it transforms a small problem into a psychological hurricane. The moment you understand how your mind works, you stop blaming existence for how you feel. You stop waiting for others to grant you tranquility. You recognize that peace is an inside job, constructed thought by thought, day by day, choice by choice. So, how does this work practically? Start with brutal honesty. Ask yourself, what do I actually believe about myself? Not what I tell people, but what I truly believe in my solitude. Do you harbor a deep belief in your capability? Do you genuinely feel worthy of good things? Do you interpret challenges as opportunities or as cosmic punishments? Your answers reveal everything. Your beliefs sculpt your responses, and your responses engineer your results. Understanding also requires confronting outdated beliefs, the ones that no longer align with who you're becoming. You must also decode your emotional patterns. What triggers you most intensely? Is it rejection, loss of control, uncertainty? These triggers expose what your mind is still trying to defend against. The instant you see your reaction with crystalline clarity, you create a gap. In that gap, you can choose differently. You escape the emotional tornado. You remain centered. Many believe power means control. The deepest power is understanding. You can't dictate every event that occurs, but you can dictate the meaning your mind assigns to it. One person's job loss becomes catastrophe, another's becomes opportunity. The event is identical. The difference is interpretive. Understanding your mind grants you this superpower, the ability to generate meaning that strengthens you rather than dismantles you. Remember, your mind obeys what you repeatedly tell it. If you're constantly saying, "I can't handle this," your mind compiles evidence supporting that belief. If you consistently affirm, "I'm becoming calmer," your mind begins manufacturing that calm. Words are instructions, they're commands to your brain. Be vigilant about your self-talk because your mind is always listening, always believing, always obeying. You can't force build a peaceful mind. It emerges through patience. Daily, choose observation over reaction. Choose understanding over judgment. Choose response over panic. Over time, your mind learns that it can trust you. The internal war ceases. The mind becomes your ally. That's when genuine control manifests. Not dominance, but intelligent leadership born from awareness. The most successful people aren't those who never experience doubt. They're the ones who recognize doubt and move forward anyway. They've learned the essential skill, separating emotion from identity. They understand that uncertainty doesn't equal weakness, it equals humanity. You owe yourself the gift of understanding why you think as you think. Examine yourself the way you'd examine your deepest goals. Observe how your mind reacts under pressure, through failure, in moments of praise. Every reaction reveals where you need peace. Every reaction is information. You can journal about your thoughts each evening. Write down what generated stress, what created calm, what sparked pride. Patterns will emerge. The same triggers, the same reactions, the same cycles repeating. Awareness compounds through repetition. The more you observe, the more transparent your mind becomes. Understanding your mind isn't about relentless positivity. It's about relentless awareness. Sometimes that awareness surfaces uncomfortable truths. You might discover that your anger is actually fear wearing a mask. You might realize your sadness originates from expectations you never consciously examined. This is good. This is the beginning of freedom. You can't transform what you don't understand. If you want peace, you must cultivate the courage to look inward. Most people keep running from themselves, believing that some external change, a new position, a new partner, a new location, will finally fix everything. But you bring your mind with you everywhere you go. If it's not peaceful internally, the external world will never feel peaceful. You must address what's happening inside before anything outside will make sense. Begin small. Each morning, audit your thoughts. Ask, what am I focusing on today? What's my mind fixated on? When overwhelm arrives, ask, what story is my mind constructing right now? When doubt whispers, ask, is this truth or fear speaking? These questions build awareness incrementally. Awareness compounds into peace. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The problems that once shattered you lose their grip. You still feel them, you're not numb, but you don't live them anymore. Distance emerges, the kind that brings clarity. You start making decisions from calm rather than chaos. You stop rushing toward solutions and start trusting your process. That's the revolution that happens when you understand your mind. Problems don't disappear, but you do. You transcend them. Emotions don't vanish, you learn from them. Control becomes impossible, so instead you master your response. Between thought and reaction, peace lives. So before anything else, before changing habits, careers, or worlds, study the mechanism directing everything. Learn how it thinks, why it fears, what it believes. Because the moment you truly understand your mind, every problem shrinks, every emotion clarifies, every day becomes lighter. The peaceful mind isn't mystical, it's a learnable skill. It begins with complete self-understanding. Chapter 2. Quiet the storms so solutions naturally emerge. Every problem multiplies tenfold when your mind is a raging inferno. You know the feeling, that endless mental static, the constant internal commentary, the relentless replaying of failures, the obsessive worry about what might happen. That's not a small distraction, that's the actual catastrophe. It's not the situation that breaks you, it's your mind's refusal to stop spinning. The second your inner world quiets, solutions appear as if by magic.
Calm isn't the absence of problems, it's the ability to think clearly despite them. You can't see your reflection in turbulent water, and you can't locate wisdom in a chaotic mind. When stress floods your system, your brain enters a primitive state. Emotion dominates, your perspective narrows dangerously, everything feels urgent. This is when you make decisions that betray you, reactive decisions, desperate decisions, decisions born from fear rather than wisdom. To solve any real problem, you must first restore inner calm. A serene mind makes decisions of integrity. A turbulent mind only repeats old catastrophes.
When your mind rages, it insists you must act immediately. It convinces you that doing something, anything, is superior to stillness. This is a lie. Most genuine problems don't require speed. They require wisdom. And wisdom only emerges from stillness. You can't outrun confusion. You must outwait it through patience. The person who remains composed while everyone else panics always sees what others miss. They perceive pathways invisible to the frantic. Quieting inner noise begins with honest observation. When life throws something unexpected at you, where does your attention collapse? Do you immediately catastrophize? Rehash old failures? Assault yourself with criticism? That noise, those patterns, blocks genuine insight. Your mind gets trapped in fear loops, judgment spirals, and recursive anxiety. Recognizing this loop is step one toward dismantling it. Silence feels foreign because it forces you to encounter your actual thoughts. You start noticing your self-talk's cruelty. You become aware of how much energy you waste on things completely beyond your control. This awareness feels heavy initially, but it's profoundly liberating. The moment you see how much self-imposed suffering originates in your own thoughts, you gain leverage to change them. Calm isn't granted to you. It's self-constructed through gentle attention to your inner landscape. When thoughts accelerate into chaos, don't battle them. Fighting noise creates more noise. Instead, pause, observe, take a slow breath. Ask yourself, what's actually happening right now? Your body follows your breathing. Your mind follows your focus. Breath is your anchor. Each deliberate exhalation communicates safety to your nervous system. Here's the truth most people miss. You're usually okay in this exact moment. You don't need to solve everything right now. You've already survived every difficult moment you faced. In this moment, you're breathing. You're alive. You have options. You're fundamentally safe. Yet your mind insists otherwise. You don't need to achieve perfect mental silence. You just need to stop feeding every single thought. Not every idea deserves your attention or energy. When your mind begins catastrophizing, listing every possible disaster, you can simply say internally, not now, not this. You can train your focus like you'd develop any other muscle. Every time you guide your attention back to the present moment, you strengthen that capacity. Over time, your mind understands that peace isn't discovered through control. Peace is discovered through presence. A calm mind isn't empty, it's selective. It means you've consciously chosen what occupies your thinking, rather than being dragged around by random thoughts. You can't prevent thoughts from arising. You absolutely can determine which ones you entertain. Imagine sitting in a crowded waiting room. Thoughts are people entering and exiting constantly. You don't need to engage with everyone who passes through. Some people don't warrant your conversation. Some thoughts don't deserve a seat at your table. Distraction amplifies inner noise. Most people wake and immediately thrust their attention into their phones. Before they've even greeted their own day, they're absorbing other people's perspectives, fears, complaints, manufactured dramas. That's how the mental chaos originates. Your mind becomes a room filled with voices that don't belong. You can't find peace in a crowd. You must intentionally choose silence. Begin your day in quietude. Before the world invades, listen to yourself first. You can engineer calm by simplifying what you consume. Excess information creates confusion. Excessive comparison creates doubt. Excessive talking creates tension. Your mind needs space to breathe, to process, to simply exist without stimulation.
Set protective boundaries around your attention. Not every message requires a response. Not every problem is yours to fix. Protect your mental space the way you'd protect something invaluable, because it is. Another powerful technique: externalize your thoughts. Write them down. Transfer them from your head to paper. Watch something almost magical happen. Half of what felt absolutely overwhelming loses its power when it's visible. The mind exaggerates. Paper clarifies. Once your thoughts are external, you can separate facts from feelings. You can identify what genuinely requires action and what simply needs time to dissolve. When overwhelm crashes over you, your mind insists you're drowning. But typically, you're not buried by tasks. You're buried by thinking about tasks. Thinking about something drains more energy than actually doing it. Calm begins when you stop carrying that mental weight. If you can do something now, do it. If you can't, schedule it clearly. And then, and this is crucial, stop thinking about it until it arrives. Calm isn't a one-time achievement. It's a daily practice. It's small pauses between thoughts. It's patience between desire and arrival. It's choosing not to react when every nerve screams to fight. Each moment you choose pause over panic, you're teaching your nervous system something revolutionary. You don't need to overload to survive. Balance is possible. You're reprogramming your fundamental operating system. Many people confuse activity with progress. They stay perpetually busy to avoid encountering themselves. But silence isn't wasted time. In silence, your mind processes. It organizes emotions. It connects patterns invisible during chaos. The most brilliant insights often appear not when you're forcing them, but when you finally stopped trying. Clarity visits calm spaces. You'll notice calm physically. Your shoulders release downward. Your breathing deepens naturally. Your stomach softens. Your heartbeat steadies. You remember what safety feels like. That's when your brain's genius capacity returns. Options appear where only walls existed. Solutions emerge where only problems had been visible. When you're genuinely calm, you start distinguishing what's truly important from what merely feels urgent. You realize not every notification demands immediate response. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Not every worry merits your attention. Peace isn't weakness. It's the highest form of intelligence. The person who remains composed in chaos holds the advantage, not through detachment, but through clarity. They see circumstances as they actually are, not as fear distorts them. Sometimes calm originates from acceptance. Stop resisting what's happening. Your resistance multiplies stress. Acceptance reduces it. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve or agree. It means you stop fighting what already is. Once you accept reality, you possess space to locate the next step. Movement generates calm too. Walk outside, feel the air, observe your surroundings carefully. When you reconnect with your senses, your mind's spinning slows. Nature possesses its own rhythm, reminding your mind to breathe, to settle, to simply be. You can't simultaneously experience panic and gratitude. When you engage your senses fully, gratitude returns naturally, and with it, peace.
Rest constructs calm as well. An exhausted mind is a loud mind. Sleep deprivation makes small irritations feel catastrophic. Rest permits your brain to reset and reorganize. Don't glorify exhaustion. Productivity without inner peace isn't success, it's deterioration. Real advancement includes recovery. Give your mind quiet time the way you'd give your body nourishment. Forgiveness also quiets the noise. Regret might be the loudest voice in the human mind. It repeats endlessly, I should have, I could have, I might have. But the past is unchangeable. You can extract lessons from it, but you cannot live in it. The moment you accept your past as part of your narrative rather than your sentence, the echo diminishes. Forgiveness is silence to the mind. To genuinely solve problems, you must approach them with emotional equilibrium. Elevated emotion narrows perspective. You only see through fear's or anger's distorted lens. Calm widens your aperture. You perceive more possibilities. You listen more clearly. You speak with greater thoughtfulness. This is why the calmest person in the room often becomes the leader. Clarity attracts trust. Most people believe they'll find calm once circumstances improve, but life won't become easier. Instead, your mind becomes stronger. The identical storm that demolishes one person can construct another. The difference is internal quietude. When you've cultivated the ability to return to calm rapidly, you stop dreading challenges. You stop doubting yourself when things collapse. You understand that you can think your way through it because you've proven it repeatedly. Establish rituals for calm. Before major decisions, take 5 deliberate breaths. Before responding in anger, pause for a minute. Before concluding your day, sit in silence briefly. These micro-practices train your brain to slow down. They interrupt automaticity. The more you practice, the faster your mind returns to peace. Calm isn't passivity. It's conscious action. You can be forceful, assertive, and ambitious while remaining composed. Actually, calm is what sustains your power. Anger burns violently but briefly. Calm endures. Calm people aren't sluggish, they're deliberate. They don't rush because they understand that speed without direction leads nowhere. When you master your inner noise, you reconnect with intuition. Under stress, intuition drowns beneath fear. Once you're truly quiet, it surfaces. You sense what's right without relying solely on logic. You make decisions born from wisdom rather than panic. Inner calm reconnects you with knowing that always existed. If you want solutions, stop pursuing them through noise. Stop trying to think your way out of confusion. Step back, sit, breathe, observe. Let your thoughts settle like dust after a windstorm. When clarity arrives, what requires doing becomes obvious. Most answers are simple. It's the noise that obscures them. Peace isn't innate. It's a discipline. A deliberate choice you make repeatedly until it becomes your natural state. Every calm response you select builds the foundation for handling the next challenge with greater ease. You start living differently. You stop reacting to every emotion. You start treasuring silence above noise, patience above haste, understanding above being right. When your mind is quiet, problems stop dictating your emotions. You become the director of your thinking instead of its captive. You listen more, judge less, think more deeply. You stop searching externally for peace because you've constructed it within. And once you genuinely possess that, no matter what life presents, you can meet it with a clear head, a steady heart, and an unshakable calm. That's where actual solutions emerge, not from struggle, but from understanding. Chapter 3. Interrogate your thoughts rather than blindly believing them. Most people never challenge what their mind tells them. A thought appears, and they assume it's truth. But your mind is an author, constantly creating narratives from fear, accumulated wounds, and distorted expectations. Some stories serve you, many destroy you. They resurrect old pain, amplify minor worries into catastrophes, and convince you of lies about who you are. If you want genuine peace, if you want real clarity, you must interrogate your thoughts instead of automatically trusting them. Your mind has been collecting ideas since childhood, from parents, teachers, peers, society, failures, and pain. Over decades, these ideas calcified into automatic thoughts. You don't even register them. They simply appear, informing you who you are and how reality functions. But here's the essential truth. Loudness doesn't equal truth. Some of the most convincing thoughts are simultaneously the most destructive. Think about how frequently your mind asserts things like, "I can't do this, they don't like me, this will never work." Most people hear that and stop. They don't investigate, they simply obey. They don't realize these aren't facts, they're interpretations, raw opinions disguised as evidence. Your mind interprets reality through emotion. When afraid, your thoughts exaggerate danger exponentially. When angry, your thoughts rationalize destructive reactions. When sad, your thoughts insist nothing will ever improve.
The external world doesn't transform, your perception does. The filter shifts. Freedom emerges from pausing and interrogating, is this thought actually true? Then go deeper. How do I know it's true? What real evidence exists? Could I see this differently? Most of the time, you'll discover your thought is simply an assumption wearing truth's costume. The moment you question it, its power erodes. Your mind only controls you when you refuse to challenge it. Every emotion originates in thought. Feel hopeless, and beneath it sits a thought, things will never improve. Feel inadequate, and a whisper says, I'm fundamentally not enough. Feel anxious, and your mind is predicting failure before it happens. By examining these thoughts, you weaken their influence. You create space between what occurs and how you interpret it. Peace lives in that space. Your thoughts resemble clouds passing through sky. They arrive, they linger, they depart. But you don't become the cloud. Yet most people do exactly this. They merge with their thoughts. They say, I am anxious, instead of, I'm experiencing anxiety. The distinction seems minute, but it's everything. When you believe a thought completely, you become it. When you examine it, you remain the observer. You reclaim authority. The most insidious thoughts aren't obviously negative. They're the ones that sound logical, but are actually fear in disguise. I should wait until I'm more prepared. Sounds reasonable, but often it's fear pretending to be wisdom. I'll start when I feel ready, when I feel safe. But it's frequently self-doubt in disguise. Your mind is clever. It weaponizes comfort to keep you imprisoned.
Interrogating your thoughts reveals the patterns that keep you contracted. Your mind isn't your enemy. It's not trying to hurt you. It's attempting to protect you. It learned to manufacture fear to keep you safe. The problem, it doesn't distinguish between genuine physical danger and emotional discomfort. The alarm system activates equally for threats to your body and threats to your ego. The same neural alarm that signals genuine danger also activates when facing rejection, failure, or change. Questioning your thoughts calms that false alarm. You start seeing most fears as predictions rather than reality, and predictions almost never manifest as expected. Try this. Imagine your closest friend expressing the same belief. If they said, I'm going to fail, what would you respond? You'd probably say, you don't know that yet, or you've accomplished difficult things before. Now ask yourself, why does your mind deserve less compassion than your friend? Speak to yourself with genuine fairness. Be skeptical of your own negativity. Sometimes your thoughts aren't even yours. You're carrying voices from your past. A critical parent, a harsh teacher, a judgmental peer. Their words transformed into your inner monologue. Interrogating your thoughts helps you separate your authentic voice from echoes of the past. You decide which voices stay. Begin practicing. Throughout your day, observe your thoughts. When one feels heavy, write it down. Don't analyze it yet. Simply notice it. By evening, review what you've written. Ask yourself, who taught me this? Is it true always or just sometimes? Does believing this thought help me grow or hold me back? Patterns will emerge. Certain thoughts resurface repeatedly in different disguises. Those require your deepest attention. Your beliefs architect your entire experience. Believe the world is hostile, and you'll interpret every action as threatening. Believe people can't be trusted, and you'll find confirming evidence everywhere. Your mind searches for information that validates what it already believes. That's why blindly accepting every thought is dangerous. Your mind manufactures a reality around it. Interrogating your thoughts breaks this cycle. It permits you to consciously construct new beliefs aligned with who you're becoming, not who you were. When you start questioning your mind, your ego resists powerfully. It hates being challenged. It insists, you're wasting time, this is pointless. But that's just another thought. Smile at it. You don't need to battle your thoughts. You simply need to stop obeying them blindly. With practice, the ego's voice quiets. You realize it isn't your enemy, it's the former version of you attempting to maintain control. Interrogating your thoughts also teaches humility. You begin recognizing how narrow your perspective actually is. Your interpretation of reality represents just one angle among countless possibilities.
This realization softens judgment. You stop presuming you always understand people's motivations. You stop reacting to misunderstandings. You become more open, more understanding, more peaceful. This practice doesn't mean rejecting every thought. It means becoming selective. Keep thoughts that serve your growth. Discard those that don't. Think, I can learn from this? Keep it. Think, I'll never succeed? Interrogate it. Replace it with something authentic. I don't know yet, but I can try. You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing to focus on what's useful. One of life's most liberating realizations is this: thoughts are suggestions, not mandates. You don't have to believe everything your mind offers. You don't have to act on every impulse that appears. You're the gatekeeper of your consciousness. You determine what enters and what's rejected. That's actual freedom. When facing a problem, your initial reaction is typically emotional. Your mind immediately fabricates a story, usually a fearful one. It broadcasts, "This is terrible," or "I can't handle this." In that moment, pause and interrogate. Ask, is this fact or assumption? If it's an assumption, set it aside. Focus on facts. What's actually happening? What's within my control? What action can I take right now? The moment you separate emotion from fact, your problem shrinks and clarifies. Interrogating your thoughts isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It takes courage to challenge your own mind. Most people never do it. They live within their beliefs without recognizing they constructed the walls themselves. They mistake their perception for reality. When you start questioning, you're dismantling those walls one by one. You make room for truth. You can also train yourself to locate opposing evidence. Your mind says, "I always mess everything up." Find instances where you succeeded. It insists, "Nobody cares about me." Remember moments when someone showed kindness. This rewires your brain, balancing negativity with reality. Your mind is survival wired to exaggerate threat. You must consciously remind it that not every thought represents danger. Over time, you'll notice a profound shift. The voice in your head becomes less demanding. You stop feeling imprisoned by emotions. You'll still have thoughts, but they'll feel lighter, easier to navigate. You'll respond to challenges with curiosity instead of fear. You'll trust your judgment because it's no longer distorted by ancient narratives. Every genuine transformation begins with self-awareness. When you understand how thoughts generate emotions, you stop being controlled by them. You become a thinker instead of merely a reactor. You start choosing thoughts that construct confidence instead of anxiety, hope instead of despair. It's not about forced positivity. It's about honest interrogation of what's real. The external world may not shift as quickly as you'd prefer, but when you interrogate your thoughts, your entire experience of that world transforms fundamentally. You stop living from fear. You stop granting every worry the attention it demands. You stop assuming your feelings define reality. You start living from awareness instead of assumption. Your mind will always produce thoughts. That's its function. Your function is determining which thoughts guide your life. Every time you pause to interrogate, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. You strengthen your capacity to think clearly, choose wisely, and live with genuine peace. The next time your mind insists you can't, you're not enough, or things will never change, don't argue, don't fight. Simply ask, is that actually true? And listen to the silence that follows, because most of the time your mind has no real answer. It's simply a story. And in that silence, clarity emerges. In that space, solutions appear. That's where liberation begins, not by controlling every thought, but by seeing them for what they are, passing narratives, not permanent truth.
Chapter 4. Embrace discomfort until it loses its stranglehold on you. Most people structure their entire existence around escaping discomfort. They avoid the difficult conversations. They hide from failure. They numb themselves from pain and call it survival. But avoiding discomfort doesn't protect your peace. It systematically destroys it. Every time you escape what's uncomfortable, it strengthens. Every time you face it, its grip weakens. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's a teacher pointing toward your growth. If you want genuine peace, you must stop running and start facing what causes you pain until it no longer controls you. Peace doesn't exist in challenge's absence, it's constructed in challenge's presence. Life will never stop testing you. Just when you reach what feels like stability, something new will shake your foundation. This isn't punishment, it's training. The goal isn't escaping the fire, it's learning to stand in it without being consumed. The only way to do this is stopping your fear of discomfort. Discomfort signals that you're stepping into the unfamiliar. It's evidence that your comfort zone is ending and your real potential is beginning. But most people misinterpret this sensation. They believe discomfort means something's wrong. They interpret tension as danger. They retreat before seeing what's possible on the other side. Growth always feels uncomfortable before it feels rewarding. You can't develop strength in spaces that keep you safe. When you face discomfort, your mind panics initially. It screams to leave, to hide, to return to what's easy. But if you stay long enough, something remarkable happens. The fear fades. What felt unbearable becomes manageable. What felt threatening becomes ordinary. That's how you remove discomfort's power, not by avoiding it, but by proving to your mind that it's survivable. Your peace isn't fragile, it's untested. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the stronger your resilience becomes. You discover that rejection doesn't annihilate you. Failure doesn't define you. Uncertainty doesn't mean loss of control. It means the beginning of trust. Every time you face what frightens you, your mind learns a liberating truth. I can handle this. That belief becomes the foundation of authentic peace. Discomfort manifests in countless forms. The awkward silence after speaking truth, the moment you choose discipline over comfort, the quiet solitude of building yourself while everyone else seeks distraction. These moments don't feel good, but they construct a resilience that pleasure never can. Pleasure brings temporary relief, discomfort brings lasting strength. There's a unique calm that emerges only after you stop avoiding pain. When you finally turn toward what you've been running from, you realize it's significantly less powerful than your imagination made it. Most suffering doesn't come from pain itself, it originates from resisting it. The moment you stop fighting, pain begins softening. It transforms from punishment into information. It reveals what needs healing, what needs changing, what needs acceptance. If you've survived heartbreak, significant failure, or loss, you already understand this truth firsthand. The initial wave of pain feels overwhelming, but over time, as you genuinely face it, that pain's edges dull. What felt impossible to survive becomes something you can discuss calmly. This transformation didn't happen because time healed you. It happened because you stayed with the discomfort long enough for understanding to emerge. Most people confuse comfort with peace. Comfort is temporary and situational. It depends on conditions. Peace is permanent and internal. It depends on mindset. You can sit in a comfortable room and feel internally chaotic. You can be surrounded by chaos and feel internally grounded. If you've constructed peace through facing discomfort, you won't require life to be perfect to feel okay. Facing discomfort doesn't mean forcing unnecessary suffering. It means being radically honest about the feelings you've been escaping. It means sitting with sadness instead of immediately distracting yourself. It means acknowledging fear instead of pretending you're fine. It means admitting that you can't control everything and realizing that's actually okay. Peace doesn't come from control, it comes from surrendering to what's real. Discomfort becomes powerful when you treat it as a wall. Every time you feel it, that's where you stop. If you can push through that boundary, even slightly, you expand your capacity. Consider how many opportunities people forfeit because they can't tolerate temporary discomfort. They avoid expressing their truth, so relationships remain shallow. They avoid taking risks, so dreams never grow. They avoid acknowledging mistakes, so patterns repeat endlessly. Discomfort guards everything worth having. If you want more peace, more confidence, more freedom, you must walk through that gate. When you consciously start facing discomfort, your self-perception transforms.
You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances. You begin trusting your capacity to endure. You stop saying, "I can't handle this," and start saying, "This is hard, but I'll get through it." That linguistic shift changes your entire emotional state. It moves you from powerlessness to agency. Most people think peace means everything flows smoothly. It doesn't. Peace means when things shatter, you don't shatter with them. You can think clearly while hurting. You can act with integrity while angry. You can move forward while uncertain. That caliber of peace doesn't come from comfort. It's forged through repeatedly facing discomfort until it stops overwhelming you. There's a difference between pain that depletes and pain that transforms. The first exhausts you. The second evolves you. Growth pain teaches patience, humility, strength, and compassion. It shows you how to maintain composure when life doesn't cooperate. It demonstrates that fear isn't fatal. It's a signal that you're expanding. Each time you endure discomfort with awareness, you grow stronger, freer, more at peace. Discomfort also exposes truth. It reveals what truly matters to you. When tested, you discover which values are genuine and which were merely words. You see who stands with you and who disappears. You understand what's essential and what's just noise. Discomfort strips away illusions, leaving only what's real. When discomfort surfaces, your instinct is escape. The moment you do, it pursues you in different forms. Identical fears appear in new situations. Until you face them directly, life keeps presenting the same lesson. The faster you confront it, the sooner you're liberated. Running from discomfort perpetuates limitation. Walking through it opens possibilities.
You can train yourself through small steps. Each day, do something slightly harder than usual. Speak up when you'd normally stay silent. Sit with silence instead of reaching for your phone. Admit what you don't know instead of pretending you do. These micro acts teach your mind that discomfort is survivable. Gradually, you stop viewing it as threat and start viewing it as growth. Every uncomfortable emotion carries a message. Anger signals that boundaries are violated. Fear warns that something important is at stake. Sadness indicates something meaningful has ended. If you listen, these emotions guide you toward healing. If you avoid them, they repeat until you finally pay attention. True mastery requires learning to sit with tension without demanding it vanish. That's emotional maturity. The world doesn't owe you comfort. What it offers instead is growth. Growth requires friction. If you expect life to be easy, you'll be perpetually disappointed. If you expect it to be challenging but manageable, you'll discover peace even within chaos. Facing discomfort doesn't make you cold. It makes you resilient. It teaches empathy. Once you've known your own pain deeply, you understand others more compassionately. People who've avoided pain often judge harshly. People who faced it judge less. They understand everyone carries invisible weight. That understanding softens your heart and strengthens your peace. There will be moments when discomfort feels endless. You'll think it's too much, that it will never pass. But every emotion has an expiration date. No feeling lasts forever. If you breathe through it, stay present, and resist escaping, you'll watch it fade. The next time it returns, it will feel lighter. Eventually, what once triggered panic will barely move you. That's not numbness, that's mastery. Peace doesn't come from perfect circumstances. It comes from trust. Trust that you can face whatever arrives and remain intact. The moment you stop fearing discomfort, you stop living defensively. You stop waiting for everything to settle before relaxing. You start carrying calm within you. Discomfort is the gateway to emotional freedom. Walk through it regularly. Feel the sting, the tension, the fear, but remain steady. Let discomfort speak until it exhausts itself. When you can sit in its presence without losing balance, you'll know genuine peace. Not the temporary kind that depends on conditions, but the deep kind that lives within. That's the quiet power of embracing discomfort. You stop hiding. You stop shrinking. You stop needing life to be easy to feel okay. You learn to stand in the storm without trembling.
You understand that peace isn't something life grants, it's something you construct by refusing to run from what hurts. And once you've faced discomfort long enough, it loses its power. What remains is strength, clarity, and a calm that nothing can diminish. Chapter 5. Accept uncertainty and build steadiness within the unknown. Uncertainty is among the hardest things the human psyche can tolerate. We desperately want to know what's coming. We want assurance that things will work out, that people will stay, that our plans will unfold exactly as imagined. But life doesn't operate that way. No matter how meticulously you prepare or how tightly you grip, there will always be things beyond your control. The liberating truth is this: peace begins the precise moment you stop demanding certainty and start learning to stand steady within uncertainty. Most of our actual suffering doesn't originate from what's happening. It originates from what we fear might happen. Your mind abhors the unknown. It frantically attempts to fill every gap with predictions, assumptions, and catastrophic scenarios. That's why uncertainty feels so crushing. It's not the unknown itself that wounds you, it's the mental chaos you construct around it. Learning to live without needing all the answers returns your peace to you. Uncertainty isn't disorder, it's reality. Every single moment of your life has always been uncertain. You've simply learned to ignore that fact when things feel stable. The future has never been guaranteed, not for anyone. What makes life simultaneously beautiful and terrifying is that you never know exactly how it will unfold. You can plan, but you cannot predict. You can hope, but you cannot demand. The only authentic control you have is your psychological state. That's where steadiness originates. When you battle uncertainty, you generate anxiety. When you accept it, you discover calm. Acceptance doesn't mean surrender. It means understanding that your energy is better invested in adapting than resisting. The more you struggle to control the uncontrollable, the more influence you grant to fear. But the moment you cease forcing outcomes, you feel lighter. You navigate life with clarity instead of tension. People often say, "I just want to know what's coming," as if certainty would solve everything. But knowing doesn't guarantee peace. How many times have you known what was approaching and still felt deeply uneasy? What you're actually searching for isn't certainty, it's safety. And safety doesn't emerge from knowing the future, it emerges from trusting your capacity to handle whatever arrives. Uncertainty is the soil where growth takes root. Without it, you'd never develop courage, patience, or faith. Every meaningful step forward in your life required walking into the unpredictable. You started new jobs, you relocated, you entered new relationships, all without guarantees. Growth and uncertainty are inseparable. You can't evolve while clinging to the familiar. The price of transformation is releasing your grip on certainty. Learning to stand steady within uncertainty begins with awareness. Notice what your mind does when faced with uncertainty. It spirals, doesn't it? It invents narratives. It imagines outcomes that haven't occurred. It hunts for something concrete to hold. You can interrupt this pattern by grounding yourself in the present moment. When your mind leaps toward the future, bring it back by asking, "What's actually true right now?" Usually, the answer is much simpler than your anxious projections. You're breathing, you're alive, you have agency, you're fundamentally safe at this moment. Your mind wants to believe certainty equals safety. The opposite is frequently true. When you demand certainty, you narrow your own life. You decline opportunities because you can't guarantee the outcome. You remain in situations that deplete you, at least they're predictable. You choose familiarity over fulfillment. Learning to stand steady within uncertainty permits you to take genuine risks, leading to a better life. It's not recklessness, it's courage built on self-trust.
So stop asking life to give you answers. Before you move, start moving and let answers reveal themselves along the way. Don't wait for certainty to begin living. It never arrives. Learn to breathe through the unknown, to stay balanced when plans shift, to keep your heart open when outcomes aren't clear. The moment you stop fighting uncertainty and start flowing with it, something remarkable happens. You begin experiencing peace, not as a result of control, but as a result of trust. You stop requiring life to be predictable to feel safe. You stop fearing change because you know you can meet it with calm. You stop searching for guarantees and start building stability from within. That's what it means to accept uncertainty and stay steady within it. It's not about knowing the path ahead, it's about walking it with presence and courage. It's about trusting yourself enough to face the unknown with open eyes and a calm heart. And when you live that way, uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. It becomes the quiet space where peace, growth, and new beginnings are born. Chapter 6. Recognize your emotions early and guide them with wisdom. Most people aren't destroyed by their emotions themselves. They're destroyed by their failure to recognize emotions early. Emotions aren't your adversary. It's the delay in noticing them that creates destruction. When you ignore what you're feeling, emotions accumulate quietly until they explode catastrophically. When you deny them, they hide and shape your behavior without your awareness. But when you notice them early and guide them with reason, you reclaim dominion over your mind, your actions, and your peace. Emotions are signals. They're messengers, not masters. Anger communicates that something feels unfair. Fear alerts you to possible danger. Sadness indicates that something important has been lost. But most people don't treat emotions as information. They treat them as commands. They react automatically rather than reflect. They speak before thinking, act before calming, judge before understanding. That's when emotions hijack your consciousness and reason disappears. The pathway to emotional mastery is watching what you feel without rushing to obey it. Recognizing emotions early requires genuine awareness. You can't manage what you don't notice. The earlier you catch an emotion, the easier it is to guide. Think of it as a spark. If you notice it early, you can cool it effortlessly. But if you ignore it, it becomes a raging fire consuming everything. Most people focus on controlling the fire instead of preventing the spark. Real emotional intelligence originates with awareness, not reaction. You can train yourself to notice emotions by paying close attention to your body. Your body often knows what you're feeling before your mind registers it. Your chest tightens when anxious, your jaw clenches when angry, your shoulders collapse when sad. These physical signals are breadcrumbs. When you learn to listen, your body becomes your emotional guide. The moment you sense something shifting, pause. Don't label it. Don't attempt to fix it. Just notice. Awareness is the first step toward authority. Once you recognize the emotion, you have two paths: let it drive you or guide it with wisdom. Emotions are tremendous forces. They can propel you toward wisdom or destruction depending on how you handle them. Reason doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It means managing how you express it. When emotion and reason collaborate, you act with clarity and power. When emotion acts alone, you react with confusion and regret. Most people either overreact or completely disconnect. Some drown in emotions, permitting them to dictate every choice. Others deny emotions entirely, pretending not to feel. Both paths create imbalance. Overreaction causes havoc. Suppression creates disconnection. Emotional maturity exists in the middle, feeling deeply but thinking clearly. Remember that emotions are temporary visitors. They arrive and depart like waves. No feeling persists forever unless you keep feeding it. Anger lingers when you replay the story repeatedly. Sadness deepens when you resist it. Anxiety grows when you chase control. When you guide emotions with reason, you stop providing them unnecessary fuel. You let them rise, deliver their message, and fade naturally. To guide emotions, you need to create space between feeling and action. Most people feel, speak, and then regret in that order. The goal is inserting reflection between feeling and action. That tiny pause changes everything. It permits your logical mind to engage. It allows you to ask, is this emotion grounded in fact or interpretation? Will acting on this help or harm? What's a more skillful response? That's how reason transforms emotion into wisdom. Imagine someone says something that stings you. Your immediate reaction might be anger. If you react instantly, you might say or do something you'll regret. But if you pause, notice the emotion, and think, you might realize your anger didn't come from what they said, but from how it made you feel about yourself. In that pause, you reclaim power. You respond consciously instead of emotionally. That's emotional leadership, being in command of your inner landscape. Recognizing emotions early also sharpens your communication. When you understand what you're experiencing, you can express it clearly instead of projecting it onto others. You can say, "I feel hurt," instead of, "You always do this to me." You can say, "I'm nervous," instead of withdrawing in silence. Emotional awareness creates emotional honesty, and honesty builds genuine connection. Children react to emotions. Adults guide them. Growth means learning to carry feelings without permitting them to dictate your decisions. It means understanding that emotion and logic can coexist harmoniously. You can feel upset and still act kindly. You can feel terrified and still take the necessary step. You can feel disappointed and still move forward. That balance constructs a peaceful mind, not through emotional absence, but through emotional mastery. Sometimes people believe strong emotions indicate weakness. They think sadness means failure or fear means cowardice. But strength isn't the absence of feeling. It's the capacity to face what you feel without losing balance. When you recognize your emotions and guide them with wisdom, you transform vulnerability into strength. You stop being reactive and start being responsive. You stop carrying emotional baggage from yesterday into today. Emotional awareness doesn't mean analyzing every single thought. It means understanding your patterns. Notice which emotions surface most frequently. Do you get angry when feeling unheard? Do you get anxious when things feel out of control? Do you shut down when criticized? These patterns expose old wounds still influencing you. Once you see them, you can separate past pain from present reality. That separation gifts you freedom. You no longer react today as if it's yesterday.
Reason doesn't suppress emotion. It refines it. For example, fear can protect you when danger is genuine. But when fear controls you, it keeps you imprisoned. Reason asks, is this fear serving me or limiting me? Sadness helps you process loss, but when sadness becomes self-pity, reason says it's time to release. Anger can motivate positive change, but when it turns to resentment, reason reminds you that peace is far more valuable than revenge. Reason is the guide that keeps emotion aligned with truth. You can strengthen emotional reasoning through reflection. Each evening, think about moments when emotion guided your behavior. Were there times you reacted too hastily? Were there moments you stayed centered when you normally wouldn't? Reflection strengthens awareness. It's how you learn from experience instead of repeating it. Emotional mastery is built through observation, not judgment. It also helps tremendously to create space before responding to emotionally charged situations. Step away for several minutes if possible. Breathe deliberately. Remind yourself that emotion is energy. It needs time to settle. Once your body relaxes, your mind recovers clarity. Many regrets could be prevented if people permitted emotions to cool before acting. Guiding emotions with reason also means deliberately choosing where you direct your attention. Emotions follow focus. The more you fixate on what's wrong, the stronger your frustration becomes. The more you focus on gratitude or solutions, the calmer your emotions become. You can't always choose your initial feelings, but you can absolutely choose what feeds them. Attention is fuel. Use it intentionally. Sometimes you'll encounter emotions that feel overwhelming. You might experience sadness that won't lift, or anger that burns for days. When that happens, reason helps you step back and observe instead of drowning it. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to communicate? What needs attention here? Emotions often repeat until they're genuinely understood. Once you address their root, they release their grip. Emotional maturity isn't about being happy constantly.
It's about being honest and balanced. No matter what you feel, when you recognize emotions early, you stop being blindsided by them. When you guide them with reason, you stop being controlled by them. Peace naturally emerges because you're no longer living at the mercy of every passing feeling. Emotions are part of being human. They color your experience. Without them, everything would feel sterile and mechanical. But like water, they need direction. Uncontrolled, they flood and destroy. Guided, they nourish and strengthen. The goal isn't drying the river, it's building strong banks that guide its flow. That's what reason does for emotion. If you want to build a peaceful mind, practice noticing your emotions in real time. When tension arises, name it. I'm frustrated. When unease appears, acknowledge it. I'm anxious. Naming emotions reduces their intensity because it activates your rational brain. You shift from being the emotion to observing it. That simple step transforms everything. Awareness turns emotion from chaos into clarity. Remember that you can experience multiple emotions simultaneously. You can feel grateful and sad. You can feel hopeful and terrified. You can feel proud and uncertain. Your mind likes categorizing feelings as good or bad, but emotions are simply experiences passing through. Don't judge them, understand them. Sometimes your strongest emotions come from unmet needs. When you're angry, maybe you need respect. When you're sad, maybe you need connection. When you're anxious, maybe you need stability. If you identify the need beneath the emotion, you can address the cause instead of fighting the symptom. Reason helps you see that emotions aren't random. They're signals pointing towards something deeper. Your capacity to guide emotions defines how you navigate life's difficulties. When others panic, you can remain centered. When conflict arises, you can respond with clarity. When disappointment appears, you can recover faster. That steadiness makes you reliable to yourself and to others. It builds the confidence that no matter what happens, you can handle your inner world with strength. There's profound peace in knowing that you can feel deeply without losing control. It means you trust yourself. You know emotions will visit, but you also know they'll depart. You don't fear anger, sadness, or fear anymore because you've learned how to meet them with awareness and guide them with reason. That's emotional freedom. When you live this way, life doesn't become easier, but it becomes clearer. You stop reacting to every situation based on momentary feeling. You start responding based on understanding. You no longer need to suppress your emotions or let them dominate. You find balance between heart and mind. That's what recognizing emotions early and guiding them with reason truly means. It's a practice of awareness, honesty, and patience. It's choosing to lead yourself through every feeling with understanding instead of resistance. It's learning to let emotions speak, but not letting them decide. And when you master that balance, your peace becomes unshakable. Your decisions become wiser, and your life begins to move with the quiet strength of a mind and heart working together in harmony. Chapter 7. Transform your pain into wisdom instead of carrying it forever. Pain is woven into every human narrative. No one escapes it. You can hide from it, numb it, or pretend it doesn't exist, but it will persist until you face it directly. Pain itself isn't the enemy. It becomes the enemy when you carry it indefinitely without extracting what it's trying to teach you. When you hold pain too long, it becomes your identity. When you learn from it, it becomes your greatest teacher. The difference between people who remain trapped in pain and those who transcend it through understanding lies in how they interpret it. Most people believe pain is punishment. The truth is far different. Pain is feedback. It's your body and mind's way of saying something requires your attention. Pain is information wrapped in discomfort. It forces you to pause, reflect, and change something fundamental. When you ignore it, it intensifies. When you face it, it starts revealing truth. Every painful experience carries a message, and that message exists to guide you towards clearer understanding of yourself and your life. Pain becomes a problem only when it becomes your identity. When you keep replaying the story, you keep reliving the hurt. But when you step back and look at the lesson, the narrative transforms. You start saying, that experience taught me patience. That loss showed me what I value. That failure helped me grow. The narrative shifts from victimhood to wisdom. That's clarity, seeing the same event through a higher level of understanding. It's okay to revisit pain, but not to live in it. Healing doesn't mean the memory disappears. It means the memory no longer controls your emotions. When you can think about your past without feeling bitterness or regret, you know you've transformed pain into wisdom. You've reclaimed the energy that used to be trapped in the wound and redirected it toward growth. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. Pain doesn't instantly become peace. It takes patience, reflection, and genuine self-compassion. Some days you'll feel strong and grateful for what you've learned. Other days you'll feel exhausted and wish it never happened. Both are part of healing. The goal isn't rushing the process, but staying present with it. Every time you choose understanding over resentment, you move closer to wisdom. When pain visits, don't ask for it to leave immediately. Ask it to speak. Ask what it's trying to show you about yourself, about your priorities, about your strength. When you listen, pain becomes guidance. When you ignore it, it becomes a burden. In time, you'll see that pain was never just an obstacle. It was a mirror. It showed you what needed healing, what needed growth, and what needed release. It pointed you back to yourself. The version of you that emerges after pain is always more real, more grounded, more aware. Transforming pain into wisdom means reclaiming your story. It's saying, this happened, but it doesn't define me. It's recognizing that every wound carries wisdom, every loss carries direction, every heartbreak carries purpose. When you live with that awareness, pain stops being a weight you drag through life and becomes a light illuminating your way forward. That's the power of transformation, taking what once broke you and using it to build understanding, compassion, and strength. When you can look back and say, that pain gave me vision, you've reached genuine peace. Not because life became easier, but because you learned to see clearly through the hardest moments. And once you gain that clarity, pain can no longer control you. You've already transformed it into power. Chapter 8. Build trust in yourself through small daily commitments. One of the most damaging habits people develop is overpromising. They say yes to everything, to others, to themselves, to impossible expectations. Every yes becomes another chance to fail. The more promises you make, the easier they become to break. The solution is to simplify. Make fewer promises, but take them seriously. Say less, do more. Build a reputation with yourself for dependability. When your words are few but solid, your confidence grows naturally. Each day offers countless opportunities to rebuild self-trust. You don't need massive achievements, you just need consistency. When you say you'll wake up early and you do, that's trust. When you plan to journal for 5 minutes and you write, that's trust. When you choose one healthy meal instead of mindless eating, that's trust. Over time, these moments accumulate. They send a clear message to your subconscious, I keep my word. And once your mind believes that again, everything transforms. When you trust yourself, decision-making becomes easier. You no longer overthink every choice or fear making mistakes. You understand that even if things go wrong, you'll handle it. That sense of inner reliability calms your nervous system. You stop chasing external control because you've built internal steadiness. You become your own source of reassurance, not because you're certain of outcomes, but because you're certain of your ability to stay consistent. Many people rely on motivation to act, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes with emotion. Self-trust doesn't depend on feeling motivated, it depends on discipline. Discipline is doing what's necessary even when you don't feel like it. It's honoring your word to yourself even when comfort tempts you otherwise. Every time you act without waiting to feel inspired, you strengthen your inner resolve. You remind yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through no matter how you feel. Self-trust also grows through self-compassion. You can't build confidence by attacking yourself. Shame doesn't create discipline, it creates paralysis. When you fail, be kind but accountable. Acknowledge the mistake, forgive yourself, and return to your commitment. Consistency comes from compassion, not cruelty. When you treat yourself with understanding, you're more likely to try again instead of giving up. Sometimes rebuilding trust means releasing who you used to be. Maybe you've broken so many promises to yourself that you stopped believing in change. But your past isn't evidence of your future. It's just information. Use it to learn, not to define yourself. Each day is a new opportunity to rebuild credibility with yourself. Start small. Prove to yourself you can follow through, and let that belief expand gradually. It also helps tremendously to keep your promises visible. Write them down, track them, celebrate small wins. Your mind needs evidence of progress to rebuild faith. Seeing proof of your consistency reminds you that change is happening, even if slowly. Over time, those small actions compound. What felt like weakness becomes reliability. What felt like self-doubt becomes self-trust. Rebuilding trust also means aligning your actions with your values. Many people make promises based on what others expect rather than what feels authentic. They commit to goals they don't truly care about, so naturally, they fail to follow through. When your actions reflect your real priorities, discipline feels natural. You don't need willpower to do what genuinely matters to you. Alignment creates ease. Another overlooked part of rebuilding trust is learning to say no. When you say no to distractions, temptations, and things that don't serve your growth, you protect your integrity. You show yourself that your time and energy have value. Boundaries are an act of self-respect. They remind you that you're responsible for your peace. Every time you honor a boundary, you reinforce the message that your word matters. Small daily follow-throughs might not look impressive to others, but they're deeply transformative. Waking up and keeping your morning routine, finishing the task you said you'd complete, following your workout plan, speaking kindly to yourself when things go wrong. These small wins shape your inner identity. Over time, you begin feeling genuinely proud, not for being perfect, but for being reliable. That quiet pride becomes confidence, and confidence becomes peace. When you rebuild trust in yourself, you stop seeking validation from others. You no longer need constant reassurance because you've built it internally. You know that even when things get hard, you can rely on yourself to show up. That trust makes you fearless. It allows you to take risks, to dream bigger, to face failure without losing hope, because deep down, you know that no matter what happens, you'll keep going. Trust is built through repetition, not grand promises. The days you don't feel like showing up matter most. Those are the moments that define your relationship with yourself. Every time you push through resistance, you're telling your mind, I can count on me. And when that becomes true, peace follows naturally. You rebuild trust by living with integrity even when no one is watching. It's easy to perform when others expect it, but real growth happens in private. The quiet moments when you choose what's right, even when no one will know, that's where strength is forged. You become your own witness, your own supporter, your own proof. Eventually, the small daily follow-throughs add up to something greater. Your actions start aligning effortlessly with your intentions. You stop fighting against yourself. Your words carry meaning again. You no longer need to make grand promises to feel hopeful. You trust the process because you've lived it. You've built a foundation of consistency that nothing external can shake. Rebuilding trust in yourself doesn't happen through inspiration, it happens through repetition. Each morning you rise and do what you said you would, you heal another piece of that fractured relationship with yourself. Each evening you reflect on what you completed, you strengthen your belief in who you're becoming. Over time, that belief becomes certainty, and certainty becomes peace. That's the real power of small daily follow-throughs. They rebuild the bridge between your intentions and your actions. They remind you that discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect. They teach you that consistency is freedom. And once you rebuild that trust, you no longer need to convince yourself you're capable. You know you are because your life proves it every single day.
Chapter 9. Let silence teach you what endless thinking never will. Silence is something most people fear deeply, yet it's the very thing that could rescue your peace. In silence, the mind loses its constant audience, and truth emerges naturally. Most people fill every moment with noise, music, scrolling, talking, planning, because silence forces them to confront themselves. It demands you meet the thoughts you've been avoiding. But here's the paradox. The answers you're chasing through exhausting thinking are often waiting quietly underneath all the noise. Silence doesn't demand effort. It requires presence. And presence is where genuine understanding originates. Overthinking is the mind's desperate attempt to control what it can't accept. It spins endlessly in circles, replaying scenarios, creating predictions, building towers of worry, and searching frantically for certainty. It's utterly exhausting because it never concludes. It feeds on itself. The more you think, the more confused you become. You convince yourself that one more analysis will finally bring clarity. But overthinking doesn't create clarity, it generates fog. The truth, clarity isn't something you think into existence. It's something you permit to appear when the mind becomes still. Silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the absence of mental chaos. It's a state where thoughts can come and go without your interference. When you stop battling your mind, you begin hearing something deeper, your intuition, your inner knowing. That quiet voice never shouts, and that's precisely why most people miss it. It speaks through feelings, in small nudges, in gentle realizations. You can't hear it through the deafening noise of constant thought. You hear it when you create space to truly listen. The habit of overthinking is rooted in fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of missing out, fear of losing control. The mind keeps running because it believes that thinking more equals solving more. But the mind frequently confuses motion with progress. You can spend hours analyzing a problem and still be trapped because thinking without awareness is just cycling. Silence breaks that pattern. It allows you to step outside your thoughts and see them clearly, instead of being imprisoned inside them. When you sit in silence, the first thing you notice is how loud your mind actually is. The noise doesn't stop immediately. Thoughts come rushing in, memories replay, emotions rise. You'll feel restless initially. That's normal. The mind resists stillness because it's not accustomed to being observed. But if you remain just watching without fighting, the noise begins settling like sediment in water. Clarity emerges naturally when you stop stirring it constantly. Silence teaches you to separate what's real from what's imagined. When you overthink, you're trapped in stories. What someone might think, what could go wrong, what you should have said. None of it exists right now, yet your body reacts as if it does. Silence brings you back to the present moment. It reminds you that most of what troubles you is happening exclusively in your head. When you return to the moment, problems shrink and solutions clarify. You start recognizing that silence isn't empty, it's full of truth. It shows you patterns you couldn't see before, the way you react out of habit, the beliefs that drive your anxiety, the emotions you've been avoiding. Silence doesn't judge, it simply reveals. And when you see things clearly, transformation becomes easier. You stop fighting invisible battles because you understand where your energy truly belongs. In silence, you discover that peace isn't something you have to earn. It's something that's always been there, waiting underneath layers and layers of thought. When the mind quiets, peace rises naturally. It doesn't need to be created, it needs to be uncovered. This realization transforms how you approach life. You stop hunting for peace in external things because you know it's already inside you, waiting for you to stop drowning it with noise. Overthinking tries to solve life intellectually, but life isn't a problem to solve, it's an experience to feel fully. Silence brings you back into that experience. You begin noticing small things again, the sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your heartbeat. These simple sensations pull you out of your head and into the present. The present moment has no fear, no regret, no anxiety. It only has reality. And reality, when seen clearly, is rarely as overwhelming as the thoughts about it. Silence also teaches patience. Overthinking wants answers immediately.
It's always trying to force timing, to make things happen faster. But silence reminds you that clarity has its own rhythm. You can't rush understanding. When you wait quietly, insights arise naturally, sometimes in moments you least expect. A calm mind sees what a restless mind misses. The solution you've been hunting for might come not through more thinking, but simply by being still long enough to recognize it. When you learn to sit with silence, you also develop emotional maturity. You stop reacting instantly to everything that happens. You begin understanding that not every emotion needs a response. Not every thought deserves your attention. Silence gives you the space to choose between stimulus and reaction. There is a pause, and in that pause, wisdom lives. Overthinking fills that pause with noise. Silence expands it infinitely. People often avoid silence because it feels uncomfortable. They associate it with loneliness or emptiness. But that discomfort is just unfamiliarity. When you start spending time in silence, you might feel uneasy or restless initially. That's just the detox of years of noise. The more time you spend in silence, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you stop fearing it. You start craving it because you realize it's the only place you can truly hear yourself. Silence teaches humility. It shows you that you don't need to have an opinion about everything. You don't need to constantly explain or defend yourself. You don't need to fill every gap with words. When you're comfortable in silence, you stop seeking validation through constant expression. You become okay with being misunderstood because you no longer depend on noise to prove your worth. You realize that truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be lived. Overthinking keeps you stuck in the past or future, while silence anchors you in the now. When you overthink, you live in reaction. When you embrace silence, you live in awareness. The difference between the two is the difference between stress and peace. Overthinking feeds worry. Silence feeds wisdom. The more time you spend in silence, the more your decisions begin to come from calm rather than fear.
Silence can also heal. When you stop running from yourself, you give old wounds space to breathe. The emotions you've been avoiding rise to the surface, not to hurt you, but to be released. Healing doesn't happen through endless analysis. It happens through acceptance. Silence allows acceptance to happen naturally. You see pain not as a punishment, but as part of being human. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad. You just let them pass through you. That's how the heart heals, not through noise, but through stillness. One of the greatest lessons silence teaches is that not every question needs an answer. Some things are meant to unfold with time. The mind believes that knowing everything will bring peace, but sometimes not knowing is what keeps you open to growth. Silence trains you to be at peace with uncertainty. You learn to sit in the mystery without forcing solutions. That patience builds faith, not blind faith, but trust in your own capacity to handle whatever comes. Overthinking tries to control life. Silence helps you cooperate with it. The more you listen, the more you understand that life has its own flow. You begin trusting timing instead of resisting it. You realize that not everything requires effort. Some things simply require presence. You stop chasing clarity and start allowing it to find you. In silence, life starts speaking to you through signs, patterns, intuition, and inner peace. Silence also deepens your connection with others. When you're not trapped in overthinking, you listen better. You hear what people mean, not just what they say. You stop rehearsing your response and start feeling genuine empathy. You learn to sit with others' emotions without trying to fix them. That stillness builds authentic connection. People feel safe with someone who can listen without judgment or interruption. Silence becomes not just a tool for personal growth, but a bridge for human understanding. Overthinking drains your energy because it creates endless inner conflict. You argue with yourself. You question every decision. You relive every mistake. Silence ends that war. It doesn't solve every problem, but it removes the noise surrounding it. From that peace, your energy returns. You think more clearly, move more deliberately, and act with purpose. Silence simplifies what overthinking complicates. When you start practicing silence regularly, whether through meditation, quiet reflection, or simply pausing throughout the day, you begin noticing a shift. The space between thoughts grows wider. You start seeing thoughts as temporary clouds instead of absolute truth. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness observing them. That understanding brings deep freedom. You stop being controlled by every passing worry and start living from a deeper stillness. Silence also reveals how much unnecessary noise you allow into your life. Arguments, gossip, distractions, meaningless stimulation. When you start valuing silence, you naturally start simplifying. You begin protecting your peace by being selective about what you consume, what you say, and who you spend time with. You realize that peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. Sometimes silence shows you what overthinking hides, your intuition. Logic has its place, but intuition is your deeper intelligence. It doesn't come from reasoning, it comes from alignment. When you quiet the mind long enough, intuition becomes clear. It's that calm inner knowing that says, "This feels right," or "Something's off." The more you practice silence, the louder that inner wisdom becomes. Overthinking creates confusion. Intuition brings certainty without words. In silence, you rediscover simplicity. You stop needing to overcomplicate everything. You start seeing life as it is, imperfect but manageable, unpredictable but meaningful. Overthinking hunts for perfection. Silence accepts reality. That acceptance creates peace. You no longer need every detail to make sense before you move forward. You just take the next right step, trusting that clarity will come as you walk. The most important lesson silence teaches is self-trust. When you can sit quietly with yourself and feel genuinely at ease, you know you've built real peace. You're no longer afraid of your thoughts because you know how to observe them. You're no longer anxious about uncertainty because you know how to stay centered. You stop relying on external validation because your calm comes from within. Silence doesn't make life easier. It makes it clear. It doesn't remove problems. It removes confusion. It doesn't promise happiness. It brings understanding. And from understanding comes freedom, the kind that overthinking will never deliver. When you finally allow silence to become your teacher, you stop chasing answers and start experiencing truth. You realize that not every problem needs fixing, not every emotion needs naming, and not every thought deserves your energy. You begin living with awareness instead of anxiety, with presence instead of projection, with peace instead of noise. That's the quiet wisdom of silence. It asks for nothing but your attention, and in return, it gives you everything overthinking has taken: clarity, calm, and the simple joy of being fully here, right now, in peace. Chapter 10. Live each moment with acceptance instead of desperate control. Life rarely unfolds exactly as we plan. We set goals, we create routines, we build expectations about how things should happen. But the truth is brutally simple. Control is an illusion. We try managing every detail, but life has its own rhythm and it doesn't always match ours. The need to control everything is the root of most of our suffering. We think if we can just make things perfect, we'll finally feel safe. Yet the opposite happens. The more we try to control, the more anxious we become. Real peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from accepting it as it is, moment by moment. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's strength, the quiet kind that doesn't need to battle reality to feel at peace. When you accept life, you stop wasting energy on what you can't change. You stop trying to force outcomes, fix everyone's behavior, and predict the future. Acceptance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely. You do what you can with what's in your hands and release what isn't. Most people live in constant tension because they're trying to control things beyond their reach. They want people to act a certain way. They want circumstances to align perfectly. They want timing to match their plans. And when life refuses to cooperate, frustration consumes them. But real peace begins the moment you stop demanding that life obey your preferences.
The more you fight reality, the more it hurts. Acceptance is alignment with truth. When you stop arguing with what is, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Here's a simple truth that many overlook. Control is exhausting. It drains your mind, your emotions, your energy relentlessly. You can spend sleepless nights imagining what someone might say, how things might turn out, whether plans will align. You live in mental scenarios that never materialize. Most of what you worry about never happens, and the things that do, you handle better than you expected. You've already survived countless uncertainties. You'll survive the next ones too. The steadiness you're hunting for isn't discovered, it's constructed. You build it through consistency, patience, and self-trust. Living with acceptance doesn't mean you stop setting goals or making plans. It means you hold them lightly. You take action without becoming attached to outcomes. You give your best effort, and then you release it. Control says, this must happen my way. Acceptance says, I'll give my best, and whatever happens, I'll handle it. That shift changes everything. You stop being enslaved by results and start finding peace in process. People who live in constant control rarely enjoy the present. Their minds are always in the future. What needs fixing? What could go wrong? What comes next? The irony is devastating. The more they try to secure happiness, the more it slips away. Happiness only exists now, in this moment. When you live with acceptance, you return to the present. You notice small details, the taste of your coffee, the sound of wind, the warmth of sunlight. These ordinary moments hold quiet joy, but you can only experience them when you stop controlling and start observing. Control originates from fear. We fear loss, failure, rejection, uncertainty, so we try managing everything to prevent those outcomes. But fear-based control doesn't protect us, it isolates us. It makes us rigid, tense, and reactive. Acceptance dissolves fear. It reminds you that you can handle whatever comes. When you trust your capacity to adapt, you no longer need to control every possibility. That trust creates freedom, the kind that allows you to move through life without clinging. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve of everything. It means you acknowledge reality before deciding how to act. When something painful happens, you don't deny it or sugarcoat it. You say, this is how it is right now. That honesty gives you clarity. From clarity, you can make better choices. Denial keeps you trapped in frustration. Acceptance opens the door to wisdom. You can't change what you don't accept. The moment you face reality directly, you start regaining power. When you live with acceptance, you stop taking everything personally. You understand that people act based on their own stories, not yours. Their words, moods, and decisions reflect their state of mind, not your worth. Control tries to change people. Acceptance allows them to be who they are while you decide how to engage. That protects relationships because it replaces judgment with understanding. You stop trying to fix others and focus instead on your own peace. Control thrives on what-ifs. What if it doesn't work out? What if they leave? What if I fail? Acceptance replaces this with, even if it doesn't go as planned, I'll adjust. Even if things change, I'll find my balance. Even if I fall, I'll rise again. That mindset builds genuine resilience. Life stops feeling like a constant threat and starts feeling like a journey. You stop bracing for disaster and start flowing with reality. There's tremendous power in learning to say, this moment is enough. That simple statement is acceptance in action. You don't wait for perfect conditions to feel content. You stop chasing the next thing that will finally make you happy. You realize peace isn't in the next achievement or relationship. It's in your capacity to be fully present with what is happening right now. The more you practice this, the more life feels spacious, grounded, and genuinely calm. Control also limits your creativity. When you need everything to go a certain way, you close yourself off from new possibilities. Acceptance opens doors you didn't even know existed. You start seeing opportunities where you used to see problems. You stop labeling things as good or bad and start asking, what can this teach me?
That shift from resistance to curiosity transforms your entire mindset. You become more flexible, adaptable, and genuinely free to evolve. Acceptance also changes how you deal with pain fundamentally. When you resist pain, you multiply it. You create a second layer of suffering, the struggle against what's already here. When you accept pain, you allow it to move through you. You face it with courage instead of denial. You learn that pain isn't permanent, it's a passing experience. Control tries to avoid pain at all costs. Acceptance says, I can handle this, and with that belief, pain loses its ability to dominate you. One of the biggest lessons acceptance teaches is understanding that everything has its season. People come and go, success rises and falls, emotions shift like weather. Trying to hold on to anything forever only creates tension. Acceptance allows you to appreciate things while they exist and release them gracefully when they end. You begin living with gratitude instead of attachment. You stop clinging to what's fading and start welcoming what's arriving. Living each moment with acceptance also means giving up the idea that life owes you certainty. You stop demanding guarantees before taking steps forward. You understand the unknown is life's natural state. When you make peace with uncertainty, you stop needing control. You start trusting the unfolding. Each moment becomes less about managing outcomes and more about experiencing what's authentically real right now. Acceptance and action coexist beautifully. Acceptance doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting from peace instead of panic. You still work hard, set goals, and make changes, but without desperation. You no longer chase outcomes with anxiety. You move towards them with calm determination. The difference in energy is palpable. Control says, I must fix this now. Acceptance says, I'll give my best effort and let time do its part. That patience is what builds long-term success and genuine peace.
When you stop trying to control life, you rediscover trust. You begin trusting timing. You start trusting yourself. You realize that things tend to work out when you stop forcing them. You see that the world doesn't collapse when you loosen your grip. It actually flows more smoothly. Life responds better to cooperation than to control. The moment you relax your need to dominate everything, you find that events often align naturally. Control thrives in the mind. Acceptance lives in the body. You can feel the difference physically. When you're in control mode, your body tenses, your shoulders tighten, your breathing shortens, your jaw clenches. When you shift to acceptance, your body softens naturally. You breathe deeper, your heart rate steadies, the mind quiets because it no longer feels threatened. Acceptance heals not only the mind, but also the body that carries its tension. The more you live in acceptance, the more grateful you naturally become. Gratitude and control can't coexist. Control says, this isn't enough. Gratitude says, this is meaningful right now. Acceptance teaches you to find beauty even in imperfection. You stop waiting for everything to be ideal before you appreciate it. You realize that small joys, the laughter of someone you love, a quiet evening, the comfort of solitude, are enough. Acceptance also liberates you from regret. When you accept that you did the best you could with what you knew then, you stop torturing yourself about the past. You stop replaying mistakes as if you could somehow change them. You understand that every decision, even the wrong ones, contributed to who you are now. Control tries to rewrite the past. Acceptance learns from it and moves forward courageously. The peace that emerges from acceptance isn't loud or dramatic. It's gentle but steady. It's the calm that persists even when things go wrong. It's knowing that you don't have to fix everything to feel okay. You can breathe deeply, respond wisely, and trust that life is unfolding as it should. That doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you'll have the strength to stay balanced through it. Living with acceptance doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful in a completely different way. You no longer waste energy on resistance. You stop fighting battles that don't matter. You save your strength for what truly needs your attention. That clarity allows you to act with focus instead of fear. You become calm in the storm,
not because the storm stopped, but because you stopped believing you needed to control the wind. Eventually, acceptance becomes your natural way of living. You start meeting life with openness instead of judgment. You learn to say, "This is here, and I will meet it fully." You begin trusting that every experience, pleasant or painful, has something to teach you. Control seeks comfort, acceptance seeks truth, and truth always leads to freedom. When you live each moment with acceptance, you stop measuring life by outcomes and start measuring it by presence. You no longer ask, "How can I make this perfect?" Instead, you ask, "How can I be fully here?" That awareness transforms everything: your relationships, your work, your inner peace. You start truly living instead of managing, experiencing instead of expecting, breathing instead of controlling. That's the power of acceptance. It turns ordinary moments into peace, chaos into clarity, struggle into understanding. The world doesn't have to change for you to feel free. You just have to stop demanding that it be anything other than what it is. Control tries to protect you from life. Acceptance allows you to actually live it. And in that space between control and surrender, you discover the calm, steady, and unshakable peace that was waiting for you all along. The journey from constant noise to genuine peace isn't a destination, it's a practice. It's a way of being that you return to again and again, day after day, moment after moment. Some days you'll slip back into old patterns, your mind will race, your hands will clench, your fear will scream. That's not failure, that's being human. But now you have something you didn't have before: understanding. You know your mind, you've quieted it, you've questioned your thoughts, you've faced discomfort, you've accepted uncertainty. You've guided your emotions, you've transformed your pain, you've built trust in yourself, you've learned from silence, you've accepted what is. These aren't just concepts, they're superpowers, and they're all within you, waiting to be accessed whenever you need them. Peace isn't a luxury reserved for the fortunate, it's your birthright. It's available to you right now, in this moment, waiting for you to stop fighting and start living. The peaceful mind doesn't arrive through sudden inspiration. It emerges through consistent practice. Every time you choose presence over panic, you're building it. Every time you choose wisdom over fear, you're strengthening it. Every time you choose truth over illusion, you're reclaiming it. This is your real power. Not the power to control everything, but the power to remain at peace despite everything. That's where genuine strength lives. That's where real freedom begins. And that's what will carry you through whatever life presents next. You've got this. Now go live it.